In the Unresolved Problems segment tonight, immigration chaos. During a town hall event last night, Speaker of the House Paul Ryan made clear how he'll deal with sanctuary cities.
Sanctuary cities are a violation of the rule of law, and they are not to be tolerated. We agree with that 100%. And that means if you want federal assistance, you're not going to get it. You got to enforce the law.
But Speaker Ryan also appeared to take a softer stance on mass deportations and DACA, a policy put in place by President Obama that protects illegal immigrants who entered the U.S. as minors.
If DACA gets repealed, my daughter will lose her mother, and she will lose her mother, and I want you to know that DACA has helped me. What do you think that I should be deported? And many of families in my situation should.
No. If you're worried about, some deportation, force coming on, knocking on your door this year, don't worry about that.
Joining us now from Washington, Katrina Pearson, former Trump campaign national spokesperson, and from Fort Worth, Texas, immigration attorney Francisco Hernandez. I'll start with you, Katrina. How are you guys? So Paul Ryan seems to be all over the place with me, in my opinion, on this one. In one instance, he says sanctuary cities, if you don't abide by federal law, we're going to cut off federal funding. But then he says this other federal law that we're talking about, don't worry about that one.
Well, I mean, where do we start here? I mean, this is interesting because one has to raise their eyebrows, Eric, when the sitting House Speaker makes a policy promise to a non-citizen residing in this country, particularly one that's in direct contradiction to the election results, not just in the country, but in his home state. More importantly, unless this is the Speaker's way of wanting to introduce legislation to codify this piece of Obama's legacy, on January 20th, there will be a new president, and that will be Donald Trump. And he's the only one that would have authority over that executive order.
Francisco, how can we take Paul Ryan seriously if on one hand he says, don't worry, DACA, you can stay. On the other hand, he says, we're going to be tough on sanctuary cities. How do you trust that? Where do you go with that one?
Well, number one, as Ms. Pearson noted, the DACA, the executive order, is going to be up to Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump revokes it, it means it was a valid order. So that's a whole different mess. As far as the sanctuary cities, I repeat to you, we've had this argument before. There is no such thing as a sanctuary city. But if he's signaling,
my friend,
no, there isn't. But if he's signaling that the Senate and the House,
I mean, if you're a city, and if you're a mayor who tells your police department not to turn over illegals that they catch to ICE, that is by definition a sanctuary city.
The point of the matter is, do police officers have the necessary training to make those determinations? And even the Department of Homeland Security doesn't want local departments enforcing immigration law. Now, if we're going to pass a law that says they all have to abide by immigration law, then we're going to have to fund it. That's an unfunded mandate. What is that going to cost? There is no such thing as a sanctuary city. The Department of Homeland Security can go into
you're so down a rabbit hole right now, Francisco. Go ahead, Katrina. I still contend there are municipalities in this country who say, don't turn over illegals that you catch.
Well, that's true.
They don't have to.
That's true, but Francisco, why do you need a law to tell law enforcement to enforce a law? I mean, that's the purpose of this discussion. There are sanctuary cities.
You're right.
The legislation is titled sanctuary cities, and there are too many of them in this country. We have laws that need to be enforced because what we left out of this discussion is Marianne Mendoza, the mother that spoke to Paul Ryan prior to this mother, whose son was a police officer that was killed by a repeat offender. There was no promise to her that we were going to make sure that this wouldn't happen to a family here in the United States, and that's who we should be making promises to.
But you know what? But that had nothing to do with sanctuary cities because immigration could have picked them up in L.A. and in San Francisco.
All right, stop.
But let's keep our eye on the ball.
Francisco, what about Kate Steinle? Here's a perfect example where the perpetrator was arrested 7 times, got released. Kate Steinle is dead. Ask that family if there's a sanctuary city.
I agree with you. You know what? And immigration had a hold of him when he was in L.A., and they let him get transferred to San Francisco. And when he was released from San Francisco, they give themselves 48 hours to go pick him up. But you know what? The Department of Homeland Security doesn't have to have the city's cooperation. They have the same access to the same fingerprint banks.
Well, you know what? I'll leave Katrina with the last thought. But Katrina, if the city doesn't cooperate, then they, as Paul Ryan points out, hey, what about pulling some federal funding?
Oh, absolutely. There should be
to...
consequences.
Sure.
There absolutely should be
Sure.
consequences for that. And Francisco,
Sure.
you're wrong. Sanctuary cities is a part of the problem because that is a huge magnet. The only reason they come back is because they know they're safe in those cities, and that's when Americans get hurt.
Safer than Mexico, for sure. But are we saying that there will be congressional action on immigration reform
I don't
this
know.
year?
Francisco, I think they need to figure it out. Either you're okay with it or you're not. But right now, it's kind of all over the board right now. Got to leave right there, guys. I'm sorry. Katrina, Francisco, thank you.